I have prepared this list of some of the planetary nebula of the summer sky, based on what I can see in these two atlas, Deep Sky Atlas, Interstellarium, Deep Sky Atlas, and the Deep Sky Guide. So the page 30 and 30 contain whatever object is here. So I refer to this one. I've written the list based on that. And the diagrams, I've drawn it by looking at these general diagrams are just representative. It's cartoon-like. It's not the actual sketch. So, for some of these objects that were actually in this atlas mentioned in the atlas, but there was no diagram of it or no description, I used the Night Sky Observer's Guide, Volume 2, Spring and Summer. And that is by William Bellman. William Bell Incorporated, famous astronomy publisher in America. So these are the sources that I'm using. Let's go and see what we can do based on this list that I prepared. Summer Planetary Nebula. Okay, tonight I'm doing a tour of the planetary nebulas of the summer sky. I'm using the Meade ETX AFC 8-inch auto-guided telescope with a University Optic 32mm, University Optic Conic 232mm eyepiece. And for the first target I've chosen the M57. I can say that with this University Optic is very clear and better than any other eyepiece that I have seen. Quite clear and large. For the second target, I'm going to NGC 6826 or Blinking Planetary Nebula. Okay, I can see actually the nebula. It's not very clear, but these two stars in the 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock of this diagram and the central star are a good guide, and there is a brighter star, 8.5 magnitude star. To the right, somewhere around here, it will be if I wanted to draw it. And when you look at the central star, then concentrate on the brightest star, 8.5 magnitude star. Then looking back at the central star, you see the nebula just popping. You have to really darken up your eye to see this one. And this is one of the brightest of this planetary nebula. Let just me go for another target. Okay, I'm now going for a planetary nebula in Delphinus, NGC 6905. It's called Blue Flash Nebula, and supposedly it looks like this. You should use high power, so I will try to see if I can find this. And I'm using the Delos 10mm eyepiece, Televue Delos. Oh, quite easy. I'm surprised this is easier than the NGC 6826. That is brighter actually. I can clearly see the best guide for finding the actual nebula, which is really easy to see anyway, is to use this Y-shaped asterism here. And now I'll bring it to center here. That asterism will help you to find it. I'm going to bring the oxygen tree filter just to see what can I do with that. Okay, this is an Optolong oxygen tree filter. I'm going to use it on this Televue Delos. Let's just use it and see. I'm surprised the nebula on this NGC Blue Flash Nebula is quite bright. Oh, it's quite easy to see the triangular shaped extension with the oxygen tree. But the actual nebula itself is becoming a little bit dim. But that extension, which is now here at this to the right of the bright central star, shape of a triangle can easily be seen. Easy. That's the brightest part of it. This is a degenerated star, a white dwarf. That's the destiny of our sun after becoming a red giant. It becomes a... It puffs out its outer layers, and that's the planetary nebula we will see. And then at the center of it will be a white dwarf. That's amazing. I'm seeing that. Blue flash nebula. Quite bright. I think even probably it's more impressive than the Ring Nebula in a way. Quite interesting. Let's go now that I'm here in Vulpecula. Delphinus. I'll go for Vulpecula M27 just to see how it looks. I must say it's quite big actually, but anyway, you'll see. Wow, that's quite massive compared to the Blue Flash Nebula. It's huge, 3.5 times to 4 times. It's quite bright actually. You can see the shape of it. Whatever you see in photographs, you can actually see if you look carefully. And those Dumbell shaped or apple core shaped, the shape of an apple core when you bite it probably. And then you can see a cone kind of oval shaped extension, the fainter parts joining the brighter parts. So in a way, it's a big version of the Blue Flash Nebula with similar structures, but quite larger and brighter. In deep sky terms, of course. Let's go for another object. Okay, let's go to Cygnus and look at the NGC 6894. It's called Naughty Ring Nebula, but I think based on this drawing that I have made, it's better to probably, I suggest to call it Pizza Nebula. It looks like a margarita pizza. So I'm going to have a look. NGC 6894. It's a quite extended object, at least in the Delos, but I prefer the view in the 13mm APM HDC. I suppose Aethys 13mm also will give the same view or even better. I can see naughty parts. You don't see the whole, I mean, you cannot see a whole nebula there. You see naughty parts around, forming kind of circular arc shaped. Again, here in this case, it is very helpful if you can find this similar asterism, which is Y-shaped. And now to the center. And if you find that, the rest of it pops into the view. I must say that the view without the oxygen filter was actually better and more clear. And definitely with the APM was better. So that was the, as I called, Pizza Nebula, NGC 6894. So this target is a planetary nebula in the planetary constellation Cygnus, NGC 7027. It's called Magic Carpet Nebula. And depending on what kind of instrument you use, you can see it either like this, kind of U-shape, or you can say horseshoe shaped, or like this, more like a horseshoe with nail spots of it, nail holes. So you need a really high magnification. So I will not removing this oxygen 3 filter from this Delos 10, and I will go for the NGC 7027 in the Cygnus. Okay, if my identification is right, and I'm not sure about that, And this Magic Carpet Nebula NGC 7027 is quite elusive target. It should be very tiny. I can see a nebula. It's very tiny, almost half the size of the M57 Ring Nebula. It's just a patch, like slightly, probably you can say like a butterfly, but nothing more than that. Or you can say like a Dumbell Nebula, very tiny, 1/3 of the, or half of the Ring Nebula M57 in Lyra. It's a challenge for me. I'm not sure that I've identified it. Surprisingly, there's a lot of nebulosity around it when I look at it. I must say that this Delos is really finicky. Eye placement is not easy. This one is so easy. That's what you get when you use 100-degree eyepiece. Okay, let me go for the NGC 7026, and it's supposed to have two bright parts. One sketch is like this, other sketch like this, and yeah, let's see how we find. NGC 7026. I'm using the Skywatcher Myriad 5mm eyepiece. See it with the Delos, but was not very clear. But with this one is very clear. Again, Delos is very finicky to show the any details. Eye placement is really finicky. This 110-degree eyepiece is brilliant. It's relaxing. You can look at the corner of the field of view and see. I must say I cannot split it in two parts as shown in this image. I can see just nebulosity. The key is to find a triangle. The base of it is one of two stars. One of them is Nebula, Planetary Nebula NGC 7026. The other one is a star. And if you can split that one, the base, which is a nebula, I could not do it with this eyepiece. If I use 3.5 mm, I have to change a little bit the center of the target. I don't want to do it because I will lose the accuracy of the go-to of the Meade. So I'm just happy with that. I cannot resolve it, but I see the nebula. It's very tiny. Sometimes I think that how these ancient astronomers, I mean, for example, the compiler of the NGC catalog, how they could see these tiny things. Either their skills was really good, or I don't think their equipment was any as good as us. The skills must have been very good, or the dark sky really had access to very dark sky. At the same time, even dark sky will not help you in that. They must have really good patience, and yeah, that's the key. Skills and patience, I think. There is this Planetary Nebula NGC 6765 in Lyra. It's quite straight in the zenith now, and because of this large diagonal and back focus, the telescope will hit the base if I go for that. So I'm just skipping this one. I think I've seen most of this now. Probably I can go for the NGC 6884. Yeah, go for that one. And the tiny sketch I've made of this. Okay, NGC 6884 is very similar to, I mean, it is looking like a star, a bigger star. The other stars are pinpoints. It's a quite like a bright star in a way. I mean, in this Delos 10 anyway. The thing is that central star is magnitude 57. I didn't see central star, so tiny. I will just use another eyepiece just to see 5mm Myriad, just for the sake of the saying that I've made an effort. Let's see, so it's kind of like a star. It's at one of the long corners of a diamond-shaped asterism. 4 stars which make a diamond with the stellus of I'm talking about, and oxygen 3 filter. I don't think you need the filter anyway, it's visible. So that diamond, if you imagine that diamond, kind of 4 sides of it, at each corner there is a star, and the longest of those corners, the star there is a Planetary Nebula. It's quite stellar in the shape. It's one of the oddest ones I've ever seen. I cannot discern any detail in it. It's just stellar looking. I think I've seen most of or almost all of these Planetary Nebulas in this list, except this NGC 7048, which is very dim. I will try it later.